From here.
Mr. Speaker, Labor has expressed concern to Minister Guy that a number of the provisions of this bill seem close to the edge of acceptability of the Statutes Amendment Bill. In particular, the amendment of the definition of foreshore in the National Parks Act. We have told the government we will support the bill while retaining the right, as my colleague pointed out earlier, to reconsider any individual amendment in the Committee of the Whole House. And the definition of foreshore in the National Parks Act 1980 will be amended. Currently, the National Parks Act refers to the definition contained in the Harbours Act 1950, which has been repealed. The new definition is any land covered and uncovered by the flow and ebb of the tide at mean spring tides. Labor has expressed concern that this will have unintended consequences in light of the review of the Foreshore and Seabed Act. Associate Minister Justice Nathan Guy has assured Labor that the Ministry of Justice and the Attorney-General is satisfied that the change will have no direct effect on the Foreshore and Seabed Act 2004 or the review of the Act. The bill amends Section 9 of the Birth, Deaths, Marriages and Relationships Registration, which substantively changes the meaning of when a parent unavailable to sign a birth registration form. This is a sensible amendment, but seems very close to a policy change because this is an ongoing issue that has relevance to people who want to find out who their parents were if they don't know, and it does have unintended consequences, Mr. Speaker. Other proposed amendments which give rise to concerns, certainly as Charles Chauvel pointed out in his letter to the Justice Minister, was the Juries Amendment Act 2008, which itself amends the 1981 Act, which seems a long time ago, but is not yet in force. And that's quite interesting. It's amended to expand jury districts from 30 kilometres to 45 kilometres. We're not too sure the relevance in there, and this is one of the things that we just want to suss out a bit more. The Marriage Act, which has been quite a hot debate over the last 5 years, Mr. Speaker, changes the criteria for appointment of independent marriage celebrants. And it is a huge growing field that goes outside of the church, that has its own ethos and its own practice. And there are a whole host of different practices by marriage celebrants, and that's something else that we have a concern about. The amendments to Section 139 and 156 of the Property Law Act 2007, where a mortgagee obtains a court order for possession of mortgaged property, possession is backdated to the date of the application to allow the mortgagee to collect any income from the property from that date. And that opens up a raft of difficulties in the sense of ensuring who's in the right and who's in the wrong, and we certainly will keep track of that. The amendments to 94A of the Protection of Personal and Property Rights Act 1988. The amendment concerns the independence of witnesses to enduring powers of attorney and seems to be policy related. And this is very interesting, where you can get, it seems to read in the course of the development of this bill, of this notion, is that you can have the attorney practicing in one sense for you, but at the same time doing a double act. And we certainly want to keep an eye on that. Both proposed amendments to the Radio Communications Act 1969 allows regulations to be made concerning the importation for supply and the offering for sale of radio apparatus in the same way as regulations can be made which control the supply of such equipment. We have a concern, an ongoing concern about bandwidth and the use that comes about with this new equipment, and it's really, really important. The Labor Party is also concerned that the proposed amendments to Sections 405 and 412 of the Building Act 2004 will reduce the ability of the House through the Regulations Review Committee to scrutinise certain instruments. And this is very, very important to keep an eye on, Mr. Speaker, because we're not too sure what the greater game plan is here, especially in Wairarapa, where a lot of people will be struggling after this budget announcement. While this case seems to have arisen from a drafting error, In principle, the Labour opposition will not generally be supportive of including amendments that reduce parliamentary scrutiny in a statutes amendment bill. The Companies Act 1993 is something we're very interested in. Notices given by the registrar removes need for publication of notices in certain newspapers and requires notices to be available on the internet. The difficulty we have with that, a lot of our constituents don't have the internet, and it seems to be Big Brother tactics of removing from public eye information that is very important. So we would like to understand better, Mr. Speaker, what that is about. So as you look at me quite quizzically, Mr. Speaker, we will be supporting this, but we will retain the right to ensure that we can come back and debate and discuss in a peaceful fashion those matters that are relevant and that we are concerned about. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Call John Hayes.
Mr. Speaker.